They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Coming up on Life with Brian.
I mean, the last book, the main character was a Heart supporter. Deliberately made him a Heart supporter because I wanted to have a lot of bad things happen to him. You get to that point where you think, am I just showing off and being a real arsehole here? Like, you know, just being greedy.
By being
basically. Remember when I realised that Britain was a mess and would never achieve anything again as a nation was when Benny Hill's Ernie, the fastest motorman in the West, kept Jeepster off number one.
Hello and welcome to Life with Brian, the Brian McClare podcast for what is our fourth or fifth season now, I'm not even sure. I'm Mark, and with me as ever is Brian McClare's biggest fan, Matthew Christ, and of course we've got Brian McClare himself here. Nice to see you both after the summer recess. What have you been up to?
Well, I'll let Brian answer that question because I don't think people are that interested in what I've been up to.
Why not? You've got lots of interesting things. You've certainly lots of, well, not as interesting as what Mark was doing at the weekend, though.
Yes, I was cosplaying middle class at
That
the
was
Wimbledon men's final.
Yeah. That, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian's been gallivanting around. I've been about and around, and we're back after what seems like an eternity.
Yep, and as ever, we've got a special guest, and this time it's a Scottish writer whose books, such as Trainspotting, Filth, The Acid House and Porno have been huge hits, and whose latest release, Men in Love, revisits his most famous characters, Renton, Sick Boy, Spud and Begbie. We are honoured to be joined by Irvine Welsh. How's it going, Irvine?
Good, thank you.
Football, we have to start with football. Well, I mean, several people would suggest it wasn't football the way that things are going now with the modern game, but I think you went to your first game at Hibs in around about 1968.
Yeah.
What I was interested in was who did they play? Can you remember? Or remember any players who took you? Smells, sounds, sights, you know?
It was Motherwell, and my old man, my uncle, took me, and my dad was a Hibs fan, but his brothers were all Hearts fans, and they used to do that Easter Road, one week, Tynecastle, the next week thing that people did back then. But they took me to the Hibs Motherwell game and it was up at kind of the old main terrace at Easter Road, Shaw Heights, which was really high up, basically. It's been demolished now, but and Hibs won 2-1, and I didn't really get into the game at all. It was I kind of I just wanted at that age just want pies and crisps and sort of Bovril and all that, and I couldn't, and it was like because we were up in Shaw Heights, it seemed very far away from the action, but I think it was just a few weeks later that I kind of started thinking about it and thought that I really felt good being there in the stadium with people and all that. And I went to the Hibs Kilmarnock game, which was just a few weeks later at Easter Road, and it was a fabulous game. It was a kind of 3-3 draw, sort of kind of end-to-end stuff. And I remember that Colin Steen got a hat-trick for Hibs, and Tommy McLean, Jerry Queen and Eddie Morrison all scored for Kilmarnock. And it was just one of these mad kind of sort of back and forward games. Really exciting. There could have been a lot more. And it was one of these games that you expect football to be like that all the time when you're a kid. You know, you think a lot of them are kind of quite drab games, and they're sort of played in cold weather, and sort of kind of 0-0 draws. But this was just end-to-end stuff, and that really kind of hooked me, I think, from that day.
And your own experiences of playing football, I believe, were troubled from the age of 8 when you were were playing in the street, and according to the information I've gleaned, you got arrested for playing football on the street. Is that right?
We
Or
got
is that just a
arrested,
myth,
aye.
or-
Yeah, it's funny because I've got a documentary coming out on me in August, which is closing the Edinburgh Film Festival. And in the documentary, I talked to a couple of my pals, Dougie Webster and Colin Campbell. They were arrested at the same time. They were all arrested together as 8-year-olds, and it was quite something. You know, we just moved from the prefabs in West Pilton to the Masonettes in Muirhouse. There was no kind of signs indicating that we couldn't play, and we're just kicking a ball around this bit of grass outside the flats that we lived in, and the cops came by, and we couldn't believe that they were sort of charging us. Everything was really strange about it, and we actually went up to court. And the judge, to be fair, he kind of he felt the police were wasting his time, you could tell. And everybody, Mole Man gave this big speech, kind of and, you know, they were just expressing everybody's kind of loathing for what had happened here. And, you know, it was quite a strange thing. And, you know, I can't, and you know, we were admonished, but we actually had this on our charge sheets forever, basically. You know, it's there on your sheet. You know,
So you've still got a criminal record for kicking a ball
I've got a
around?
criminal record for something that happened at 8 years old for playing football in the street. We were charged and taken. It's quite a funny kind of thing now in a lot of ways. It's kind of bizarre, but it sets you. It kind of, you know, you when you're that age, you think you're going to get taken away, basically. You know, you're terrified. You think you're going to go to some sort of some kind of home or some kind of approved school, and then you kind of, when that dies down, you go up to court. You know, it's like your mother's kind of saying things like, he's got a criminal record, a common criminal, and all this sort of stuff. So it kind of shapes your attitude to kind of, you know, to where you stand in the food chain. You know, if it was a kind of a posher part of town, if it was Barton down the street, you're not going to get that kind of reaction from the police, you know. So it really does get you into a kind of mindset in a sense. And you also get that swagger when you go to school, you know, this, you know, he's got a criminal record, the police arrested him and all that. And you think to yourself, you know, I'm kind of, I'm a miniature Al Capone in the making here.
So was it just were you just a freak one-off, or were the police going around arresting?
I don't know to what extent they did this, and you know, obviously it was like they've taken people from the tenements in Leith to the prefabs in Pilton, now to these masonettes in Muirhouse, which are big systems-built flats, and I think it was just them exercising some kind of social control. I mean, there was no amenities there at the time. There wasn't even the shopping centre hadn't been built. There was no community centre. There was the playing fields up at Craig Royston School, which is across a busy road, and that was it. There was nowhere else for kids our age to play. There was no library then, so that was our lot, really.
Yeah. Did it put you off the game? I mean, did you have a promising career that, you know, snatched
No,
away
it was
from
always terrible. I was a rubbish football player, like, you know, because I was one of these kind of tall, skinny, awkward, gangly kids who's kind of didn't have a great center of gravity, and my legs were kind of too long. But I wanted to be a nippy kind of ball playing winger, like kind of Peter Marinello at Hibs, George Best, you know, the Jimmy Johnson, these guys who could kind of, and I just didn't have the balance or center of gravity or ball control skills for it. And I always remember like kind of playing football at the school, and my mate Johnny had kind of, it was a time when you had the Biafran famine, and you had that distortion that you had the kids with massive heads and really skinny, thin bodies, you know. And I remember I looked like one of these kids, basically, you know, because I had this kind of big head that's kind of stayed the same size with the rest of the bodies filled out a bit. But I remember my mate I was trying to keep the ball and dribble and all that. And my mate shouted, "Fuck off, Welshie, you big-headed Biafran bastard. Pass the ball." You know? So, you know, that was like, that was the sort of, my sort of footballing thing. But the embarrassment was that my dad's the local team, Pilton Sporting. My dad's younger brother Blair used to manage the team, so I always got picked as centre forward, and I was rubbish. So all my mates just hated me and detested me, and I was keeping great players at the team as well to make it even worse. But when I moved out to London, I started playing down in Tooting Common for Balham, and I got better then because the guy said to me that was running, he said, "Look, you can't play football, son. Just be a big, ugly central defender. Just kick somebody, take the ball off them, and pass it to one of these boys that can do something with it." So I got more effective when I started to realise my limitations.
And Brian mentioned Hibs there. I mean, you're thinking of famous Hibs fans. You're among the Craig and Charlie the Proclaimers, probably one of the most well-known. Do you still get down there and see
Yes,
Harveys?
I've got a season ticket. I've had it for years, and I'm kind of even when I lived in Chicago, and I was in America for 10 years, I usually ended up just renewing the season ticket and keeping it behind the bar so one of the boys could use it, but yeah, I still do. I've got a season ticket at Hibs. I've also got a season ticket at West Ham, and I'm either at one or the other, basically.
Yeah,
What's the story with West Ham? Why have you got a soft spot for them?
Well, when I moved down to London, I used to go out with this girl Amy, and her brother Steve was just a mad West Ham fan, a big kind of West Ham ICF thug and all that. He used to drag me along to the games, and I basically got inducted into that kind of West Ham family in a way, and it has been like a second home. For me, really, down here, so it feels like even though we're in the London Stadium now, it just feels like a home from home. The original Upton Park had a very similar atmosphere to Easter Road, and I don't know why it was. I think it was like a kind of Dockland kind of underachieving club with a sort of with quite a raucous kind of fan base who always tried to play football. The teams always tried to play a bit of football, and they had the idea that you had Bobby Moore at West Ham and Trevor Brooking at West Ham. You had Pat Stanton at Hibs. You had the idea that the guys, the local guys like Jimmy O'Rourke and Pat Stanton would be, were kind of exalted and all that, so that was a sort of, that was my era of being inducted to football. And I think that every time when I moved to London, I wanted to go to all these different games and be a generic London fan. I didn't want to get involved in any other team. But I just kept getting kind of dragged along to West Ham, and I kept sort of, at different points in my life, I kept meeting West Ham fans down here, because if you're interested in football, if you're interested in music, everybody is, it's like, I don't think that Arsenal or Spurs fans kind of go out to gigs or listen to music or go to raves or anything like that. It's always West Ham and Chelsea fans that are into all that and doing all that kind of stuff. So everybody I met practically was a West Ham fan and was always dragged back into the fold. So now I've just conceded defeat,
Yeah, I was going to say there's a kind of similarity between the two clubs without any offence, but maybe a slightly plucky underdog feel to the two clubs.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the fates are against us, and we'll never kind of we might get it together and do something for a couple of seasons, but we'll always basically underachieve or self-sabotage or not be able to sort of to maximise our potential. We're always like sort of there's a kind of romance about that as well. I think that the supporters buy into.
Yeah, you dreading the day if you ever are challenging the Old Firm or City and Liverpool, eh?
Well, that was the thing. It's like, when Hibs won the cup in 2016, it was like it was so unexpected, and it also, like, in some ways it killed football for me because because everybody made such a big fuss about it, and they've never won the cup since 1902. They're perennial underachievers. They'll never do this, and it became this thing that this big story. And I think it basically killed the Scottish Cup as a tournament almost, because there's no other real story about it. Now it's just the clubs with most money, like the Old Firm, just basically buying tournaments at the start of the season. There's no real sort of romance or competition in it now. But the story is, will they go to sleep at the wheel like they did against Aberdeen? But that's the only story about now. But to win the cup was the celebrations went on for so long, and I thought, God, I hope they never win the cup again. I can't actually go through this. It would be diminishing returns. I mean, they could win the Champions League in a couple of years' time, and it wouldn't be anything like the celebrations that happened that time, because it was such a big thing made about it in Scotland for so long that it was just like catharsis for a whole community, really.
Here's a question. It leads on a little bit from what Matthew said about challenging the Old Firm, and you mentioned it actually in Men in Love, and that because it's set around the time when there was the whole furore about Wallace Mercer merging Hibs and Hearts together. What might have happened, do you think, had that ever come off in terms of what for Edinburgh football and also for Scottish football? Do you think it ever you would have seen these two blocks going up against each other?
I don't know. I mean, it's tempting. It's like the thing about it is now you've just had Chelsea, the kind of the Conference League winners, kind of in this nonsense tournament that's being foisted on us by FIFA. To eventually spend some kind of money. You'd be tempted to think that it would never happen, and Hibs and Hearts are just two different traditions, two different sets of supporters who would never gel together as a team. But the next generation, the generation after that, sadly, they probably would, because it would just be about money. There would be more sponsorship, more investment. They would flash more cash into it. They'd probably play at Murrayfield. They'd probably play to full houses all the time. They would play. It's like nobody. I mean, it's like if somebody, probably in 5 years' time, the biggest clubs in the world will be in Saudi Arabia, or these clubs will be household names, and it's like that's just the way it's going. Basically, it's like it's a kind of horrible sport now. It's the very worst of neoliberalism, kind of. When you want to see how capitalism's developing, you just look at the worst of football. Against that, there's a grassroots movement that people are starting to support the local teams in greater numbers than ever now. You look at the league in Ireland. Now it's like people always used to go jump on the ferry for Liverpool and Manchester United, and now people are actually supporting their local clubs. I think the gates have gone up by about 70% in the last 2 seasons, and I think people are reacting. They're buying into it as a televisual experience, but I think on a grassroots level, they're reacting against it, and they want to be invested in their communities and want to be invested in a local team as a kind of emblem of that community.
You're listening to Life with Brian.
And then just as his final quote, he says, by the way, I know you're our favourites. He said, I'd just like to say, you's fucking better one, because I've got 10 grand on you.
A lot of my memories, the really good ones, have been populated and polluted with your image in shorts growing.
Bloody hell, son. You are an ugly bugger. What's that on your face? Because what have you been doing all afternoon? Headbutting pizzas?
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I believe you were inspired to move. I know you'd a whole holiday in London because you had family there, but you were inspired to move to London because of Nevermind the Bollocks.
Yeah, I mean,
or Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah, it was Anarchy, and I remember buying the black cover of Anarchy in the UK when I was an apprentice TV mechanic, and kind of playing it repeatedly, and life would never be the same again. I just thought, I can't stay here and do this apprenticeship. I have to go off to London. I have to get involved in this in some way,
And I heard, to me, it was a great story regarding your own voyage, because I know you don't like journey, your own voyage in music when you were in a band, and you read somewhere about you saw an advertisement for a bass player, I believe.
Yeah, in the one of the shops, the record shops in Inverness Street, and it was like my mate Dave, who was the singer. It was I recognised his number. You know, when I saw the number, I thought I recognise this number. So I phoned it up, and I phoned him up, and I says, you know, it's like, what's about a bassist then? You know, oh, I'm a decent bassist. And he goes, yeah. My mate, he's a nice geezer, but he's rubbish. He's rubbish on the bass. You know, yeah, you fucking wanker. You know, so that was a sort of, but it was a salutary lesson in some ways, because I realised that my keyboarding and fretboarding skills, even in the punk era, they weren't progressing at the same rate as everybody else's were.
Music's been a huge part in everything you've done though since then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been away from it, and it's always inspired my writing. And I have the dance music label now, and we've got the Men in Love album coming out. And you know, I've done, I still DJ, and I still do kind of the odd sort of house music track, and we've got a little band that we kind of do the sort of electronic music performances with. So I've never really left it behind or grown out of it, or you know, or got past it. It's just a fundamental to everything that I do, Brian. Like, yeah.
And did you, when you bought that Anarchy in the UK single, did you keep it?
I've got it somewhere. Yeah, I've got a lot of. I've got that. I've got my the very first single I bought, which was T-Rex's Jeepster. And you know, it's like I remember thinking that. I remember when I realised that Britain was a mess and would never sort of achieve anything again as a nation, was when Benny Hill's Ernie, the fastest milkman in the West, kept Jeepster off #1. And
It's not the only good record that's been kept off a bad record that's got to #1. There's been quite a few of them over the years by so-called novelty records, isn't there? That would be maybe one of the earliest ones.
This is coming from somebody that got a gold disc for Come On.
Yeah, well, I can say that as well, yeah, because it was. I mean, you can't.
it's there with authority there, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know what we kept. I don't know what good tunes. Probably all of them were better than that kept off a #1 spot for only because it was Manchester United, and I suppose status quo as well. So
yeah, in fairness, it was a genuine record. I wouldn't call it a novelty record. It was written, you know, status quo, was creditable.
Thanks very much.
I bought it.
Let's move on to talk about the book, shall we? Men in Love, romance, relationships, sex, greed, obsession, violence. There's a lot going on, and there's a return for your most well-known characters. Tell us a bit more about the story and the setting, please, Irvine.
Right, that list that you gave, it just sounds like us downstairs, like, you know. But yeah, it was like I just thought that I'm always writing these characters, and they help me explain the world, basically, try and see everything through their eyes. But I thought that I need some theme to hang it on before I actually can be bothered to publish a book about them. And I was thinking that it strikes me that in your 20s, in your mid-20s, you know, when you're a kid, your parents are the big influence. When you get older, your mates, your peers are the big influence. And then you get to that point in your mid-20s where you start to get a bit serious about romance, like, you know, and you start to have all these questions, like, you know, as soon as you, you know, in Scotland at that era, as soon as you snog a bird, everybody's saying, "You're going out with her." As soon as you say, "Aye, we're going out together," you say, or "He's moving in together." As soon as you say that, you know, it's like you're buying a house. As soon as you say that, "Ah, you're having a bairn." As soon as you know, it's like, so there's this endless list that goes on until you're dead, basically, like, you know. But there's all these big decisions that have to be made about, you know, careers, families, homes, what we do, how we, you know, get on. And you think about it, right? Guys in their 20s, particularly these guys that I've just written that I'm writing about, they're in no position to make these big sort of life-defining sort of events with authority. But yet, with the whole kind of economic and social system we're in, with the division of labour and with a kind of industrial, now post-industrial society, we still have to make all these decisions at that point in time, you know. So I thought, just get this bunch of wasters and put them in that situation and see what happens.
And what was it that made you choose this stage in their lives and their connections to each other and other people to write about this particular stage?
Well, I think they're freer for one thing, that they want to, people then wanted to be in relationships. They wanted to have autonomy. They wanted to leave the parental house. Whereas now they don't really, they're not really that bothered about it. And also that people could do terrible things, like, there was no internet, there was no social media, so the consequences, you could behave badly and there was no consequences, so you could be kind of, shagging around, having affairs, kind of sort of getting into all sorts of shenanigans, and there would be no comeback or a manageable comeback compared to the way that people are policed by each other now, and in some ways it's probably a good thing. When I talk to people about it now, you talk to young people about it, they'll say that sounds brilliant, or they'll say, oh, that's terrible. It's like how horrible would that be? Like, So, but it was a different time, a very different era, and it gives you, it's a great opportunity, and it's great fun to be able to write about an era that was freer. That you could write a book, and I just wrote a series of 3 sort of kind of crime novels, and you have to find out all these convoluted ways that somebody can lose their mobile phone or it can't be charged and all that, because these things just sap the drama out of life. They're designed to destroy kind of culture and social life, but they're also designed to increase our mental health problems. So while we're physically safer on the streets and all that, with all these cameras and cell phones and stuff like that, we're actually cracking up, because it's just kind of farming us, like we were kind of, just kind of sort of psychologically farming us for every experience we've had. So a very, very strange time to write about now. And I did write a story called In Real Life for John King's London Books, which is a novella, and that was basically looking at the equivalent of Renton and Spud and Sick Boy and Begbie and Co. But now, how they would be operating in the world now, which is very, very different to how these guys operated.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you revisit the likes of Renton, Sick Boy, Spud, etc.? But is that something that you'd be keen to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've never, once I've written a book about anybody, I never want to see them again. But that usually only lasts for about a couple of years, and then I get interested in what the characters are doing. I mean, the novel I've just finished, that's coming out next year, is all new characters, and it's set in Las Vegas. So it's a very different thing to this one, yeah.
Trainspotting is one of the cultural touchstones of the Britpop era, particularly with the film being released in '96, was it? So with all the stuff going on around the Oasis reunion tour, sparking a wave of nostalgia, are you hopeful that that's going to nudge people not only towards Men in Love, but also go back through the other books in the Trainspotting series, if you like?
Yeah, I would love it to. I don't know if it's quite going to happen on the scale that I would love it to happen. I mean, I think like 17 million people, about a third of the population of the country, applied for Oasis tickets. So I think I'll settle for half that buying the book, basically.
And with most of the work of your work that I've read, the football references in Men in Love are scattered throughout. Obviously, Hibs get a ton of mentions, as do Hearts. Is that a conscious decision by you to sneak them into your books, or is just football so ingrained in your own life and the background of your characters that it would seem more of a miss if that wasn't a recurring thing?
I mean, it's a cultural landscape that they're moving in. It's kind of pretentious not to to have them in. I think like football, like music, and like kind of places and bars that they go to and clubs that they go to and all that, that colours the whole thing, and the interactions they have at these places. To me, that's kind of what social life is about, and you have to have them in because it would be silly not to. And I even give Hearts a kind of a fair shake of it. Like, I mean, it's like, the last book, Resolution, the main character was a Hearts supporter. And deliberately made him a Hearts supporter because I wanted to have a lot of bad things happen to him.
Was that easier to do?
Very easy, much easier to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you, when you're thinking of these characters, I suppose you'd have to think, I suppose the personality of them and things like that that has to come into the equation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think as a Jambo. That's the biggest challenge. As long as you don't have to look like one, everything's good.
Well, it begs the question: how does a Jambo think?
Well, I mean, I shouldn't be saying this actually. I've got a lot of kind of Jambo pals, and Jambos in the family. So, but I think that's the great thing about football supporters. They all think that their team is brilliant and special, and that their kind of wit and their camaraderie is brilliant and special. But it's a fabulous thing to be involved with a kind of a tribe of like-minded people, and I think it's so. So yeah, I mean, hats off to everybody who's sort of kind of big into football and following their team.
Yeah. And you've also branched out into releasing a disco album to accompany the book. What was the inspiration behind that move?
I don't know. I think it was my business partner and also my music partner, Steve. We've had this techno act for a while that we go and play and sort of go around clubs and festivals and like a kind of an anonymous Pet Shop Boys and do our kind of thing there. And we went a bit off script because we decided to do the musical, like Phil McIntyre, who did his big West End producer, did the Queen "We Will Rock You" musical, and he's done loads of stuff. He just kind of did Only Fools and Horses and Fawlty Towers and all that. He's always got a few shows in the West End. And Phil is an old friend, and he'd been at me for a long time to do a Trainspotting musical. And I thought, you can't do a musical with Trainspotting, but I got Steve to work with me writing songs, and Steve's a techno producer, and I'm a kind of I'm a quite dark kind of writer. But the songs that we wrote in every genre. We did country and western and blues and acid house, techno, rock and roll, punk. But the one we really enjoyed most was disco. We did a couple of disco songs, and it was just such a joy to do that, So we just carried on writing disco tracks, basically. And we got together with these great musicians that we know, and we just started to try and do the strings and horns and get them kind of working. And then when we got them working the way we wanted, we were able to try and find some great singers. And we got Louise Marshall, who, she's just finished touring with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, and she does the Great Gig in the Sky kind of thing with all that kind of that. I'm not going to try and do it because I've not got the tone for it, but or the pitch for it. But she was, she got us. She's a great singer. She does all the harmonies for the West End, and she got us together with Sean Escoffery. And Sean's just brilliant. Like, he's just got one of these kind of fabulous voices. It's like kind of bit of Marvin Gaye, bit of Teddy Prendergast, bit of Smokey Robinson. He can do all these classic guys who have that kind of gospel background, And that's, to me, that's that kind of soul element to disco music is just absolutely brilliant and fantastic. And you hear all the guys, you hear all the guys that are singing now, that are singing house and singing dance music records. The voices are terrible. They've all got that kind of noncy kind of sub Sean Paul sex offenders. That's an idle nonsense, And the lasses have got that kind of kind of sex offenders victim, little kind of helium Minnie Mouse kind of. So we've got two proper singers that have got real guts and kind of and real power in their voices, people that are used to projecting right from the back of a West End stage. Sean's been doing The Lion King for 17 years. He's been in a lion suit for 17 years. One of the greatest singers in Britain today, and he's dressed in a lion suit for 17 years because he just has that power, and he's kind of and he can just connect with an audience, like even in a lion suit. So we've got him out of the lion suit for this.
It begs the question, is this a one-off, or have you set the precedent for yourself now? Every time you're going to write a new book, you're going to have to bring out an album to accompany?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I keep thinking, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we bring out maybe a sort of house music album for the next book, and then, perhaps some other kind of album. And you think, but you get to that point where you think to yourself, it's a great idea in terms of sort of marketing and promotion and all that. And the album is really, really good. I have to say, hand on heart, that I'm massively proud of it. And it is really great. But you get to that point where you think, am I just showing off and being a real arsehole here? Like, just being greedy.
By being
basically.
good.
Because I've got the book out, the album out, and we've got the film out next month, the documentary film. And I'm thinking, like, maybe I shouldn't be showing off. Maybe just write a book and just be happy with that. Like, but I just get very excited about things, and I just have to get involved.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Staying on the music theme just for a second, Matthew, you talked about what Come On You Ruds kept off number one back in 1994. And there is actually a Scottish football connection to what you kept off at number one. Can you guess what it is, Brian?
Where?
It is, yeah, from Clydebank's finest, and of course, club sponsor once upon a time. That's right. You were able to stem the tide of Love Is All Around for a week or two.
All right, not for long though, because that was the number one for a long time.
Yeah, so if it hadn't been for Come On You Reds, that Wet 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 would have been at number one for about 25 weeks.
Yeah.
So people have got, as well as being a hero of United and Celtic,
proudest moments.
People have got a lot to thank you for, Brian. Brian, have you got anything else you wanted to?
Just did a little rewind there, other than you talking about. If you just want to understand capitalism, look at the state of top sport, and in the book, thing that I was killing myself laughing about it was also the scenario that you painted, but also the headwear was when Sick Boy was following Amanda on the tube in the train, and he's wearing a Man United baseball cap. And then just the way that you describe, and I don't know if everybody would get that sort of thing, being involved with Man United and understanding what global sports like now, the way that you describe the whole thing about that is a great comment, not just about Manchester United. Well, it is about Manchester United in the sense of where they are now with regards to sport and a global identity in sport. But then you also mentioned the New York Yankees, which is another kind of similar situation when it comes to merchandise, isn't it? And I was laughing out loud at that. But
I think they were the first ones that became global brands, basically in the 90s, didn't they? New York Yankees and Man U. Everybody had a New York Yankees baseball cap on, and and everybody had a sort of Man U replica strip. So I think that it's like I remember, like, I was at I don't know if you know Manny from the Stone Roses. He's a kind of big Man U fan, and I was at a Man U game with him, and we're kind of we're surrounded by the kind of these kind of quite well-spoken home counties guys, like, and I was saying,
local
like,
fans.
Yeah, I was saying like they are relatively local now. They're not from Norway or Singapore, like, and I was saying to him, like, how do you feel about all these guys? He goes, how do you feel about all them cunts coming to Edinburgh for the fucking festival every This happens every week for us, mate, I'll tell you.
Just even the way that how Sick Boy got the hat was I just really enjoyed that little bit about, because I always liked any kind of novels that mention football in it, in particular football teams. I'm very keen to see what people's views are and what the influence of that particular piece of writing is, and that tickled me no end. Yeah, the whole idea, and it was how the hat became into his possession, and then what he was doing, I thought was brilliant, particularly because it's like he's on the tube and train in London, and you're same sort. It's just exactly kind of relative to what you said about Manny talking about the supporters sitting around about him, that it was not anything out of the ordinary for somebody sitting in the train in a tube in London with a Man United hat on, whereas it'd be pretty out of the extraordinary in the north if anybody was running about in any West Ham gear,
Yeah, it would be strange.
Previously on Life with Brian. One day you were there and everything's fine, and the next day, where's Gordon?
That's right. I never appeared again at Old Trafford because I wasn't invited back.
There was a long period of the winter when I couldn't really leave the house without a good reason, and I think you'd probably suggest that watching Rangers isn't a particularly good reason.
I'm just waiting for Sparky to do his own podcast, but this one came along first, so
that's a good answer.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
It may be a new season, but we're inflicting the same old silly quizzes on Brian, our guests, and you out there too. As always, it's named in our guest's honour. So, rather predictably, this one is called Train Spotting, and here's why. We are going to name a number of current British railway stations that also happen to be the name of football grounds situated nearby. And all you have to do is tell us if they're real or not by answering track, if they're true, and smack, if they're false. It's the usual 5 alternate goes, each like a penalty shootout. Do you both understand the rules?
Right. Yeah.
I'd be disappointed if Ryan didn't know the rules by now, but
yes.
No, so I've got to work out yes and no.
Yeah, track is true and smack is false. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
True. T for true.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll help you along with.
Irvine, you're our guest, so you get the honour of going first. So your first spot kick, it's Bescott Stadium.
Smack.
Oh, and he's hit the crossbar.
Unfortunately, it's wrong. It's a track. It's true. Yes, the Bescott Stadium station serves the Poundland Bescott Stadium, just a couple of 100 metres walk away. Poundland being the sponsor, of course, rather than this one being a shittier version of something better. So
who actually plays there then?
Walsall.
Yeah, right. Right.
Okay. Jockey, your first penalty and the chance to take the lead, and it is Deepdale.
Smack.
Thumbs it home with no mistake.
Yes, you're right. And
yeah, Preston North End. I don't believe it was a railway station.
No, I thought you might have gone for that one, but it is false. Deepdale was a station until its closure to most rail passengers in 1930, although it did serve as a matchday destination for the old football special trains, bringing away fans to Preston until the 1970s. So you didn't fall for the dummy on that occasion.
Okay, Brian, you're one up. Irvine, you're on catch up immediately here. And your second one is Station Park.
I would say smack.
No problem.
Yeah, you've equalised. It is smack, it's false. Forfar's Station Park does not and never had a serving station of that name. Neither does Forfar have a station at all since it was closed in 1968. Just a mere 4 years after the famous Forfar 5, East 5-4 did actually play out at Station Park itself. So we're at 1-1.
1-1, but it's advantage, Brian, because it's your go next. And penalty number 2 is St James Park. Or St James's Park.
To St James's Park.
You can see the cogs whirring away as Brian's thinking there.
Track.
Oh, I say, what a cracking goal.
Well, I don't know whether there was any rhyme or reason for saying it, but track, yeah, it's true. This is Exeter City St James's Park rather than Newcastle's station. The station is situated adjacent to the football ground and was originally named Lions Halt. Is that correct, Mark?
It is, that's right. Newcastle St James's does have a metro station, which is practically underneath the Gallagher end. But we're talking about British Rail here. So that's 2-1. And Irvine, we're back to you at the crucial midway point. And next up, you've got Ashton Gate.
Right, now that's Bristol City's ground. And there probably is, but I can't remember there being an Ashton Gate halt there or small station, so I'll say smack.
Excellent penalty.
Good reasoning there. You're right. It is false. Yep. It's another station that, after its initial closure, remained in operation for football special trains into the 1970s. But it did temporarily reopen for a series of evangelical rallies held there by American preacher Billy Graham in 1984. So there we go. 2 each.
Yeah. And a third one, Brian, is Coventry Arena.
Smack.
Oh, he's missed it! What a mistake!
Oh, no. It's track. It's true. Coventry Arena
say
Station.
No, for you like it when I get them wrong.
That's a terrible accusation.
I like it.
It's a terrible thing to say. Track is true. Coventry Arena Station, as you might imagine, is one of the newer stations on the UK rail network, having only been opened since 2016. It lies directly adjacent to the stadium, which Coventry City were forced to vacate for a number of years before their return to playing their own city in 2021 after 2 spells in exile.
Okay, so it's 2-2, and we're down to the nitty-gritty of the quiz now. Irvine, your fourth attempt is Wembley Stadium.
It might be called Wembley Park, but I'm going to say track.
Thumbs it home. With no mistake.
You've taken the lead. It's true, yes. There is indeed a real one, being just 400 metres away from England's national stadium. It's the second station to bear the name Wembley Stadium. The first closed in 1969. And in fact, this one was originally called Wembley Hill until being renamed in 1987. So you've turned it round. You're 3-2 up. And it's back over to Brian.
Yeah, Brian, you're going to have to give this one some thought if you're going to come back. And your penultimate penalty is Meadowbank Station.
Stadium.
Sorry, Meadowbank Stadium. Yep. Please don't accuse me of trying to lead you down. Smack was that?
Yeah.
You don't blame goalkeepers. You congratulate the scorer.
Yeah. Was it a guess?
No.
Okay. Well, you're right. It's false.
I just wandered past there. Many a time during COVID.
I did wonder whether you'd have some prior knowledge of this one. Yeah, it is false. This one closed in 1998, just 12 years after it was opened, in time for the 1986 Commonwealth Games held at the stadium. Its demise probably hastened by the relocation of Meadowbank Thistle to Livingston in 1995, maybe.
So 3-3, and it's down to the final penalty. And your fifth and final go, Irving, is Hampden Park.
That's a smack because Mount Florida and Kings Park are the two stations beside Hampden.
Yes!
Exactly right, yes. However, there is a Hampden Park station that opened in 1903, but you'd have to have bloody good vision to see Scotland's national stadium from one of its platforms because it's located on the northern fringes of Eastbourne on the south coast of England. So, excellent. You're 4-3 up, and that puts all the pressure on Brian for his final spot kick.
Great knowledge going into this. All round, Brian. Yeah, you got to get this one, and you're closing the quiz out with your fifth shot, and it's appropriately Easter Road.
Smack.
Excellent penalty.
Yes. Smack false. We had to throw this one in because Irvine's with us, and you once lived in Edinburgh. Easter Road closed in 1947, but it was Easter Road Park Halt that served Hibernian's ground from 1950 to 67. Easter Park Halt. Sounds like something a Heartfound might say when they're not doing so well. But that is, I think we've got a draw, haven't we?
Yeah, we're starting off the new season with a draw, and that's all the ones I could find, so we don't have a tiebreaker.
That's a tightly fought contest for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And before we go, there's just enough time for Focus On, our homage to Shoot Magazine player profiles of the 70s and 80s, where we ask our guests a number of searching questions to get to know them a little bit more before we let them go. This episode's questions come from former Hibby Steve Archibald's profile, a favourite and I believe a friend of yours, Irvine, from around 1980.
Yeah.
And this is when he first moved to Tottenham from Aberdeen, and we'll let you know some of his answers in due course. So are you ready?
Yep.
Full name?
Steve Archibald's full name, am I?
No, your full name.
All right, sorry. Steve Archibald's one would be easier to remember. Yeah, it's Irvine John Welsh.
Your birthplace and date?
Birthplace Edinburgh 27,958.
And height?
6'2".
And car?
Don't drive, never have.
Okay, well, if you needed a driver in 1980, Steve Archibald could have got you round in his Ford Cortina 2-litre coupe. Your favourite current player?
Let me think. Who would be a favourite current one? Probably Martin Boyle at Hibs.
And your most memorable match?
I think I would have to say the Scottish Cup final of 2016, because it was just one of these days where everything went right, and we're still celebrating it right through the summer. Basically, that result. So I would say 3-2 Hibs at Hampden against Rangers in 2016.
Your favourite food and drink?
Well, I kind of like. I mean, I prefer wine these days to beer or spirits. So I'd probably have a nice kind of bottle and a good white wine, like a sort of Albarino or something like that, or a nice, just a nice red, a nice Pinot or something. Yeah, would be my favorite alcoholic beverage.
And Steve Archibald's favourite food and drink probably would have been an answer of its time, much like the Ford Cortina. His was fillet steak and Cointreau.
Right.
Cointreau.
Yeah.
What? When there's fillet steak?
With his fillet, well, I assume so.
In Cointreau.
Yeah, it's a very, very popular pairing, don't you know?
Yeah.
Favourite singers?
My favorite singers, Bowie, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed.
Archibald went with Genesis and Peter Gabriel in 1980.
Right.
And if not a writer, obviously Steve Archibald was a footballer, what job would you do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably, I don't know. I mean, without writing, I'd probably be a musician or something in the arts. I'd probably be maybe a kind of third-rate stand-up comic or something like that. I'd be doing something that was pretty sort of, it was involved in something arty. I mean, I would love to have been a professional boxer, a still box. I love that sport. I'd love to have been a professional footballer, but not good enough at either of these things, unfortunately.
Steve Archibald said, and this ties in a little bit with what you did as an apprentice, he would have chosen to be a mechanic if he hadn't been a footballer.
Well, he was, wasn't he? He was an mechanic, Steve.
And finally, which person in the world would you most like to meet?
Probably Dino Zoff, goalkeeper.
That's a very random one. Where's
That's
that?
good.
Well, I've always had a soft spot for Dino Zoff since he conceded 5 goals at Easter Road playing for Napoli. That was when footballers knew their place in the food chain,
So you'd want to meet him just to ask his opinion on that that game, yeah?
Actually, he got his revenge because Juventus beat Hibs 4-2 Easter Road, kind of several seasons later when he was playing for Juventus. Then
I'm sure he recalls it all.
Yeah. Well, Steve Archibald wanted to meet. Well, I don't know if this is further up the food chain or down, but Steve Archibald's most personally liked to most meet was the Queen, which aim high, I suppose.
It sounds like Archibald spent about 2 minutes on these questions.
Yeah, not like Brian, obviously.
No, he couldn't be bothered to put his back into it and make up some lies.
Just one thing that I would like to ask you, Irvine, just related to those questions, is that do you ever regret not meeting Bowie and going to Ubiquitous Chip for a bite to eat with him?
I stood him up twice, I stood him up in New York at the Trainspotting premiere, and I stood him up again at the Ubiquitous Chip when he was doing the Glass Spider tour. I do kind of regret it in some ways, but I'm glad I didn't. I think these iconic guys should be right up there. It's like, I've got to know Iggy Pop, and he would say, "Irvine, you goddamn fool. You and David would have got on like a house on fire," So I kind of blew that one, but I like the idea that he'll always be this iconic figure to me rather than just a mere mortal, So I'm quite pleased in some ways that I didn't.
Was it a conscious decision?
Yeah, it was me basically turning into a 14-year-old girl, and being sort of like, I kind of, there's very few people that I can't be cool around, but Bowie, I would be going like, remember in Scary Monsters you had like Robert Fripp and Chuck Hammer and Carlos Alomar playing guitar. Who was the best guitarist? All that stuff, nonsense, So I spared him. I kept his dignity. He deserved dignity, and I would have. I kept that kind of intact. But what an artist! Like a one-man art school for every working class kid in Britain, basically.
At least I wasn't like that when I met you for the first time, Brian. It's never meet your heroes, they say.
Can't believe you mentioned me in the same sentence as David Bowie.
Did you just not attend the premiere altogether then, or did you?
I was, funny enough, when I was supposed to be in New York at the premiere, I ended up with my mates Paul Reekie and Liverpool Sean, and we had taken an ecstasy each, and we had signed up to do the pub quiz at the Windsor Bar in Leith, and the pills were kind of kicking in, and we were all, we spent ages pontificating about every answer and then just debating and discussing it and getting really into it without even answering the questions. So the guys with the Fair Isle jumpers and all that run the quiz, all the civil service guys, were saying that not only are you the worst ever, you've got the worst ever score in the night, you've got the worst ever score of anybody taking part in this quiz ever, and it's been going for 10 years. So I suppose it was negative, but it was good. It was good to be numero uno in some ways.
Well, at least it's good to see your quizzing has improved somewhat since that particular night.
Don't bet on it.
Okay, with that, we'll bring this episode to a close. Massive thanks, Irvine, for coming on to the podcast. It's been great having you on.
Been great to be on, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All the best to you.
A reminder to anyone listening that Irvine's new book, Men in Love, which is a sequel to Trainspotting, so you know and love the characters already, is out on July 24th in all good bookstores and online retailers. Yeah, it is brilliant, so it gets the 2 thumbs up and the recommendation from us. So I suppose that should really be 6 thumbs, which is definitely more prestigious than the Richard and Judy Book Club. The album of the same name drops, as the kids say, on the same day, so get that in your ears too. Brian and Matthew, thank you very much for being on.
No, it's good to be back.
Thank you. Nice, very pleasant.
And of course, thanks to you out there for tuning in. We're as grateful as ever to you for doing so. Keep subscribing to Life with Brian wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on X and Blue Sky at Brian McClare Pod and Instagram at Life with Brian Pod. Is that right, Matthew?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Yes, okay. And please do come back next time. Okay, that's all, folks. See you.
Life with Brian. Life with Brian. Talking films or music. Life with Brian. Talking TV and food. Life with Brian. Talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with